Well, to help us unravel that unpredictability is Richard Heydarian, the Assistant Professor of Political Science at La Salle University and author of The Pivot State, Philippine Foreign Policy amid the Sino-US rivalry in the Pacific. Richard, great to have you with us again.
My pleasure, as always.
How thought out is this new approach by Duterte's government?
Well, by all indication, it seems this is another instance of more braggadocio and big talk without specific policy implications. I think even when President Duterte the other week said that the American Special Forces should exit Mindanao, it seems that it was more like him expressing his discontent with the United States criticism of his human rights record, rather than him really creating a new geopolitical direction for the Philippine foreign policy. I think one thing that is happening here is that he's trying to say to the United States that if you continue to criticize me on the issue of human rights and my war on drugs, don't think that you're indispensable. I have other options. So he has been dangling the Russia and China card to say to China, to say to the United States that he can diversify Philippine foreign relations. He can get assistance from other countries. The other thing is this: he actually clarified a few days ago that what he meant by crossing the Rubicon was not to ditch the Philippine military alliance with the United States in favor of a military alliance with China and Russia. And what he's actually looking for here is more trade and investment ties and possibly even some military agreements, more specifically with Russia, which has been providing very affordable and high technology, military technology for a lot of Southeast Asian countries in the last few years. And lastly, I think he's also testing the waters here. He's still set to visit China next month, around October 19 to 20, from what I know from my contacts. So I think he's trying to signal to China that don't worry, we are not the same to the Philippines. We are not subservient to the United States. We are an independent sovereign nation. And when we're going to deal and negotiate with each other, we're going to negotiate as two independent sovereign countries.
How solid is the ground he's on with Russia and China, do you think, though?
It's not much solid. I mean, the fact of the matter is that the Philippines actually has very minimal military cooperation with either of those two countries. While the Philippines' military alliance with the United States remains robust, the Philippine Armed Forces is highly entwined with the United States Army. The United States has been indispensable in the Philippines' war on terror when it comes to logistics, intelligence, and in terms of financing, among other things. So I think if he's going to start any kind of relationship with China or Russia in military terms, he's starting from a very low benchmark. And I think what he's trying to really do is to diversify Philippine foreign relations. I think a lot of your audience would know that when it comes to the Philippine-US relations, there's a lot of frustration on the part of the Philippines. First of all, the US gives the Philippines around $70 million annually, which pales in comparison to billions of dollars countries like Egypt or Pakistan or Jordan, not to mention Israel, have been getting. And the second thing is the US never clarified how much they're willing to help the Philippines in the South China Sea in an event of conflict, even though the two countries have a mutual defense treaty. So a part of me feels that he's dangling this Russia and China option to actually extract more concessions from US and pressure the Americans to be more forthcoming in terms of their assistance, rather than really crossing the Rubicon and ditching the alliance with the United States.
That is interesting. And of course, we just saw the US State Department saying nothing has changed as far as their relations are concerned. How much too does Barack Obama's pivot to Asia, even though he's only got months left in office, that pivot to Asia is kind of pretty shaky with defiance like this?
Yeah, I think let's be very honest about it. Duterte's decision not to raise the arbitration case where the Philippines won against China earlier this year at The Hague, at the recent summits, particularly in the ASEAN summit, when he refused to do that, it became almost impossible for President Obama under the pivot strategy to mobilize regional support against China. So almost single-handedly, you could say that Duterte, at least for now, has undermined America's constrainment strategy against China. And that is why both superpowers now are recalibrating. But surely once a new president in the United States comes on board, then they will have to see how they're going to move forward. So here you can see that one very tough-minded leader like Duterte, even though he comes from a small country, could have an earth-shaking impact in terms of regional geopolitical dynamics.
And potentially because of that one word that was used often during the US presidential debate, and that is temperament. He has a fairly unpredictable temperament, Duterte.
Yeah, that's why we hope that Trump doesn't win in the US for some of us, because having two very volatile persons together might not be very helpful, although I'm sure many people would love to see a selfie between those two leaders in White House.
Yes, I think, well, who knows, perhaps they can have one regardless. It'll be interesting times indeed. Great as always, Richard, to have you on.
My pleasure.